And let me open up I assume we need to open up the video thing, right? The camera.
Oh no, I'm just what I do is I go live on Facebook with a different computer, and then this one I just do audio. You know what I mean?
Just audio. Okay, that's fine.
Yeah. So you're good. You don't have to worry about going, doing the video or anything. But
I don't think this one has a camera because the slash is through it. So apparently this computer doesn't have a camera.
Oh yeah. See, that's my problem too. I couldn't do it with you if I wanted to, because this computer doesn't have a camera, and the one I'm going live on does. But so. But so hello everybody. Thanks for tuning in. So this is a debate, and I wanted to talk to Kelly because you could say hi to everybody, Kelly.
How's it going, everybody? I'm Kelly. My ministry is, there's a couple different ones. One's called the Areopagus Project. I know that's a mouthful. But on Facebook, it's called Front Porch Apologetics.
I love that name, too. That's so cool because it's just like, it just gives the idea of just kind of hanging out, having a beer, and let's have some deep conversations,
Yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm into.
That is so cool.
A deep conversation, yeah.
Yeah, that's the way I like it. I try not to be as... I try to be chill, I'll have some fun, and we'll do a little bit of jib jabs and stuff like that, but nothing, nothing rough,
Oh, you got to keep it interesting.
Yeah.
A little jib here and there is good.
Right.
Likes to jab me. That's cool. I don't mind jabs.
All right, cool.
I'm okay with it.
So the reason I contacted you was, you were on the Right to Reason podcast. And it was, which is the title of this one was just wild to me. I couldn't believe it. What was it called? Oh, it's Jesus, a crazy
stupid evil cult leader.
Stupid evil cult leader. Right? Yeah. And I was just like, what?
I'll leave it to Robert to come up with something like that.
Yeah, he is a troll, man. He told me he had cancer as a joke.
Yeah, he likes doing that kind of stuff.
That's not
that the time with him. Now okay, that's probably not the case.
Right. I felt so bad too. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I don't even know what to say right now. I'm like totally fine. I'm just kidding, man. It was, I'm just joking. That was no, just kidding. Like, really, man? That's not funny. Oh my God. But
yeah, I was on with one of the guys on Facebook that I try to get him to be a little bit more loving, I guess would be a good word. Crestus Veritas,
right?
Is it moniker?
Right.
I said he was ragging on somebody. Can't remember who it was. Somebody that I don't agree with politically, but he said some pretty rotten things about her.
Oh yeah.
And I told him, I said, this, like, I believe she's made in the image of God, and you shouldn't really put somebody down, even though you don't agree with them, which I don't. And he goes on there and he starts quoting Bible verses. And I know Robert doesn't mean that. He's just messing.
Yeah.
He does that all the time just to get to pull my string.
He knows that's triggering. Yeah. So he knows right where the triggers are. I'll give him that. He's been in this business for a bit. The debate show, that's his thing. He knows where the triggers are. Yeah. But so the reason I wanted to call you and everything and have this conversation was because one of the last things that you had said on that episode was, the fact that people don't believe in God is just, I can't believe that people don't believe in God. That's just so crazy. Like that, just such a wild
thing. I think
thing.
I called it foolish.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it's almost biblical. Right.
Yeah.
The fool says in his heart there is no God. But and I'm not, and see, and I actually agree with that statement. Because I don't say that there is no God. I think that's just as wild of a claim as saying that there is a God. If it's unfalsifiable, I don't, don't make a positive affirmation that there is no God. That's just, I'm just not convinced. You know what I mean? Because then you have a burden of proof. You say there's definitely no God. Now I got to prove it. How the hell do you do that?
Well, right. And that I'm of the ilk that I say that it's the most reasonable assumption to make. And the preponderance of evidence points towards it. I mean, can I give you a picture of him? Of course not.
Right.
But what I can do is I can take what we see and evaluate it based on what we have around us.
Right.
And I go cause and effect. If you've read much about me, you know that's where I go. I go to cause and effect. I go to DNA. I go to anthropic principle. All those things seem to me the most reasonable case for those is the fact that God exists.
Right.
Now, to that, I go into who, but, with people that don't believe, that's where I start.
Right. So it's almost like the teleological arguments, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, that's cool, and that's I'm not very up on the, the rebuttals and stuff. So let's see how this goes. I know a couple,
Okay.
But I'm not really scientifically inclined as far as like evolution and stuff like that goes. So is it also is it that in combination with the Kalam cosmological?
Yeah, and I think he was probably the one that actually came up with it. Aquinas gets credit for it, but from what I've read, historically they had a debate, and that was, I think it's Salam, but anyway, his argument was that argument, and I think Aquinas picks it up. At least that's what some people say. Either way, it's a good argument. Whoever came up with it, because he was a Muslim. Oh. And I believe God exists too. And
right.
You can make arguments for that effect. I got a friend that's Muslim. He went to one of the debates I had out here. There's a group out here called Inland Empire Atheists.
Oh.
I've had panels with them a couple times.
Oh, cool.
And along with me one time, and me and him don't agree on who God is.
Right.
But he understood what I was getting at, and
okay.
the most, as I said, I think it's the most reasonable and. Trying to think of the word that they use in court. It escapes me.
Yeah, no, I'm not up on court language either.
They beyond a reasonable doubt.
Oh, that's right. Okay, reasonable doubt.
Yeah,
okay.
Beyond a reasonable doubt.
And I probably don't know what that means either. Honestly,
let me start it off by giving you kind of an example. Then we can go from there, and I probably refer back to it a few times.
Oh, okay. All right.
Okay, so I personally think it's a detective case. And we need to be detectives about finding the solution for it.
Right.
So let me set up a scenario for you, and then we can go from there.
Sounds good.
So a detective gets called out to a house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm making this up in my head as I go, so I have to correct myself a little bit.
That's
so
okay.
That's a house. And when he gets to the house, he sees that the windows and doors are all closed.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking of two different ones here. So let me think about this for a minute.
No, that's all right.
So
okay.
he comes to the house and the door's kicked in. The hinges with the thing around where the handles are all broken. Walks inside the house and there's a guy laying in the middle of the floor, face down, with a knife in his back.
Okay.
And from that you see blood on the floor.
Right.
And there's a couple footprints, bloody footprints, heading out the door.
Right.
So when the detective comes into the room and evaluates things, he's not going to think this is a suicide.
Right.
And he's not going to find the perpetrator inside the room. He's going to have to go outside the room to find him because all the evidence is pointing outside the room.
Right. Okay.
So from that, if we take it to the idea of God,
right.
I think there's evidence, and God didn't stab anybody in the back. This is my point.
No.
But there's evidence that leads outside the room, not only of the earth but of the universe. I think it leads outside the room because let me go to the first one: anthropic principle.
Okay.
Anthropic principle is a setting in the universe. There's over 900 different ones that have to be dialed in just exactly right for us to be here.
Right.
And we know the universe had a beginning. That's the common cosmological argument right now, and that's where the Big Bang thing comes from.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a proponent of the Big Bang, but we'll just go with what they think. And they believe that the universe had a beginning. And in fact, Stephen Hawking said, kind of a silly statement, but it comes to the point that I'm trying to make. He said, because the laws of physics exist, in particular law of gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. Now, there's plenty of mistakes in that statement, and he made that just before he died, and he's an atheist. Well, he was then, he's not now. Right. That's my attempt at a joke.
Yeah, he was. He was.
So anyway, his point is that the universe did come into play from nothing. There was no time, no space, no matter, no energy, and it began to exist. So from that, you have to make a correlation what caused that to happen.
Right.
And if 900 different settings that had to be in place prior to the universe beginning, seems to me like the most reasonable argument is to say that somebody said it.
Okay.
Non-spatial, non-temporal, non-material, because that's what he started those. Whoever started it, I think it's God of the Bible, but whoever did start it had to be that way, because nothing means nothing. No space, no time, no matter, no energy.
See, and I know that people say that, like that. Oh, you know, that there was like it had a beginning and a start and everything, and you know, and I hear that and I'm just like, I don't see how. I mean, I don't. First of all, I don't know what nothing is. Like, I don't know. I don't see how that could ever, how nothing could ever exist. I think that's really weird.
Well, Aristotle describes nothing, and this is, you know, his way of joke, but it makes sense. Aristotle describes nothing as what rocks think about.
Yeah, that'd be nothing. Yeah. But I mean, it'd have to be the lack of all the planets.
Just to get an aside note,
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody at the ministry I do on Thursday nights out here. I was talking to somebody and I brought that up, and I do that as kind of like, you know, a little bit of a humor inside.
Right.
I was talking to two people, and this guy's standing there listening to me. And after I was done with those two people, he came over and started arguing with me about rocks do think.
What?
And I didn't know what to say.
It's just like where you just
said, do you really think rocks think? They could.
They could.
Okay. Well, I stopped talking to people like that, because you know, how do you answer that?
It's like when you got to the point where you're just like so wrong that you don't even know how to.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, if that's what you think, then have fun with it.
Like, I can't even think of a response to that. Like, what do you mean? Like,
it's just so bizarre.
Yeah.
Anyway,
in wacko world,
sure. The bulk of the scientific community does think, and when you think about nothing, that's hard to wrap your brain around.
Right. In a time where there was nothing, you know.
Right. But if you think about it, time. I mean, we started talking 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
So time is passing.
Right.
And it has been. And the idea of infinity inside time, as if things were eternal.
Right.
Can't be.
See, and that's why I'm almost looking at, like, how do we know that it wasn't? How do we know that this didn't just go back forever, like it's like back in time, but there was no beginning? What if there's just forever in reverse?
So,
you know, I don't know.
Right,
I'm just asking, honestly.
So given that idea, where's the halfway point? Back.
The halfway point.
Yeah.
Well, there's no halfway to infinity.
If it is infinite, then where's the halfway point?
I have no idea. I don't think you can calculate that, because we don't know a starting point. There is no starting point. So if we can't calculate a starting point, we can't calculate a halfway point.
Exactly. That's the reason why I don't think infinity is a good description.
Well, I mean,
there's no. I mean, okay. So if you say that, you know, the Earth, for example, is 1% of the entire universe.
Right.
If the universe is infinite, how much is 1% of it?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. It's just, you're trying.
You can't divide infinite.
It's almost apples and oranges. You know what I mean? We're trying to find something finite to something that's infinite.
When time's involved, infinite can't be. If time's involved, infinite can't be. Me and you are not infinite, nor is anything else here. Entropy comes into play, and nothing is infinite.
Well, then God wouldn't be infinite either.
Grow old over time.
How come God's infinite?
As old as I am, but you look at me, I've got wrinkles, and I didn't used to have those. So, on me, and that's just I just don't think any cosmologist will tell you that infinite it just can't be.
Well, then how could a God be infinite?
He's not inside our time domain. Think of a painting, okay? Painting has a painter, right?
Right.
And the painting came into the head first. He had an idea of what he wanted to paint, and he put it onto the canvas. When you look at a painting, you know there's a painter.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that the characters inside the painting reached outside the painting and painted themselves, nobody thinks that. Because cause and effect. Cause and effect says the painting is the effect, What's the cause? The cause is the painter. The painter's in another dimension, right?
Right.
That's something else I gave to Robert, and he liked it. But consider if you got a piece of paper around you. Let me give you an idea of what I think by dimensions. Okay, if you got a piece of paper around you, consider there's this book called Mr. Flatland. It's not talking about the Earth being flat. I don't know why people think it's silly.
We'll get into that.
Mr. Flatland, and it's talking about dimensional space.
Okay.
We live in 4 dimensions, the 3 that are spatial and then time. But if
Right.
somebody lives in a 2-dimensional space, if you pick up a piece of paper and as a 3-dimensional being, I can enter his 2-dimensional space by sticking my fingers through the paper, right? The 2-dimensional being doesn't understand up and down, so he has no idea where that spot came from. And when I take it out, it disappears without him knowing where it went.
Right.
The point is that God lives in a higher dimension than we do. He has to, because if what I'm saying is true, the universe had a cause, since it had a start, then God is outside that dimension. You have to be.
See, and that would be the claim. I'd be like, well, how?
The cause has to be just like the painter. The painter is in a higher dimension than painting is. Painting is 2-dimensional.
Right.
It may look 3-dimensional, good, and they can. I don't understand how they could do that, but I'm not an artist. But
Right.
the painter has that ability to make it look like 3 dimensions, but it's really not. It's only 2. But the painter lives in a higher dimension, 3 dimensions.
Sure.
My point to you is that God's the same. He lives in a higher dimension that excludes time.
Right.
Plus,
Okay.
I'm talking about, just so you know, I'm a Christian. You
Yeah.
know that.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a good thing, because I
The
wanted
one that I'm
to.
talking about is the one that's described in the Bible. It said, in the beginning, time, God created the heavens, space, the earth, material, and later he said, let there be light, energy. He's in control of all 4 of those things.
Right. Okay.
So, and you have, inside time, you only have so many events. No matter how long you think it was, whether you was thinking 13 billion years ago or 6,000, doesn't matter. There's only a certain limited number of events inside time. And there has to be a first one.
There has to be.
An unlimited number of events inside time. That can't be.
Why not?
Because there's a limit. Time. It started. Me and you started talking 15 minutes ago.
Yeah. No, I know time is, but time is relative.
The universe had a start.
But time is relative to the being that's observing it. So, if we're talking about planets and the universe and stuff like that, I feel like time is a completely different type of structure.
Not at all, because the physics apply throughout the universe. They apply. Things grow old. We have white dwarf stars that have grown old.
Right.
We have blue planets that are still around. They're huge. They burn a ton of energy, and they only have a limited lifespan. Most of them think that even the bigger ones can only last about 100,000 years.
Right.
Jumping into some of the reasons why I think the universe is young, but the fact that it's limited, those physics apply throughout the universe.
But the problem is that when we're looking at the God claim as being the cause, right?
Right.
He is the cause, right? And we the problem is that we're throwing out rules, because you're like, oh no, it couldn't because of time, so it had to have a beginning, it had to have a cause and everything, and that cause had to be God. Well, what was the cause for God? How did God exist?
I get what you're saying. That's a bit of a jump, but let's just use designer for now, because all your friend atheists out there, as soon as I mention God, they get all nervous.
I don't think we get nervous. Our ears perk up, but I don't know if we get nervous. Just like.
I think that's it. But either way, there's some reaction that happens. So if you want to use designer, that's fine. I don't mind.
But see how we're like throwing out rules, and it's like if you're using a certain type of logic to say there had to be a cause, then if I use that same type of logic back to ask about your God or the designer, and you say, oh no, but those rules don't apply to him because magic, that becomes that's kind of an.
No, I'm just trying to go by what the most reasonable explanation is. If time, space, matter, and energy had a start.
We're still just because I'm fine with just saying I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I'm cool with that. I have no idea what caused the beginning of everything. If there was a beginning, I don't know. I don't know, and I'm okay with that. You know what I mean? I'm okay with.
Let's go back to my starting example. If you walk into the room of that detective case, you're going to continue to look inside the room.
Would I continue to look inside the room to if I saw the foot to find the killer? I mean, I would stay in there to get more information about the killer. Probably
Like to
DNA
find him, are
evidence.
you going to stay inside the room?
Huh?
To find him, are you going to stay inside the room?
Well, I mean, we don't know where he would be outside the room, so we'd have to use a place that we knew he was. So we'd have to use things like
to
DNA.
commence your investigation, you would have to go outside the room.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if we were going to go arrest him, but we'd have to gather all of our information from that room.
And that's exactly right. That's what I'm talking about. You gather information from inside the room, and you make a determination. Now, let me give you another example.
Sure.
The cop pulls up to the same house.
Right.
And the door is shut, locked from the inside.
Okay.
Do you have to go in? So the guy, has to get in however he has to get in. Doesn't matter.
Right.
It's inside, laying in the middle of the room, face down, with a gunshot to the side of his head, and the gun sitting beside him, and the gun's registered to him. What's your assumption now?
Well, now it sounds clearly like a suicide.
Right, and you can get most of the information from inside the room.
Right.
But the other portion that I described, the detective has to go outside the room. And my point is, when you look at what's on the earth, go outside the room. And the anthropic principle is just one. Let me give you another one. DNA is an instruction manual to build us.
I would already disagree with that.
To create what we have. The DNA tells the RNA what to do in a 4-character code. The RNA tells the proteins what to do in a 20-character code. It translates it. And the proteins and the enzymes go out and build our bodies. The heart, brain, stomach, all of our stuff is how it gets built. That's the process. And that's just biology. You can ask any biology teacher on either side, and they'll tell you the same thing I just told you. That's what happens.
Yeah, I mean, there's but it's
in our systems,
and it's not necessarily prescriptive.
You got yours from your mom and dad, so did I. But my point is, where'd the first one come from?
The first what?
First person. First anything. Let's just say cell. Where'd it come from? Who set up the language? So me and you can talk because we've both learned English.
Right.
Amino acids are the same thing. They're just chemicals. That's all they are. They don't have life in them. But the amino acids set in a certain order gives out the instructions for us. Just like our letters in English gives an instruction manual for us to understand. If I invite you to dinner, then I'm going to give you directions in English. If I gave you directions in Hebrew, unless you know Hebrew, I don't. If I gave you instructions in Hebrew, you wouldn't understand them. You wouldn't know where to go.
Right.
Same DNA. They have to understand it. You only know English because somebody taught it to you.
Right.
My point is those amino acids aligned in a certain order.
Yeah.
Somebody taught, whoever set up that initial cell, set up the amino acids so they understood what language they were going to be speaking to make things.
Okay.
And who was the one who did it?
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing. Is like I'm fine with the cause, but why does there have to be a who? Why does it have to be a sentient thing? Like I'm fine with something causing something.
That's usually
but
the case.
What if it's fairies or just anything else? Any other magical? Like it could be a black hole. Maybe black holes are sentient. They actually behave very much like a sentient being. They eat. They reproduce. They have, you know what I mean? They have small. They can come together to make a big one. Like they're very odd things in the universe that we don't understand at all.
Well, I've never heard anybody describe black holes as reproducing.
Not reproduce. I'm sorry. It was the opposite. They can come together to make a big thing. But I'm just saying, like it's something that functions in the universe in a way that we don't understand.
Sure.
But it doesn't seem like it's necessarily a mind. You know what I mean? It appears.
That's the only thing. When we see a set of instructions, there's only one causational effect that we know of.
But something can appear to be instructions because that's the way we understand things. You know what I mean? Because we are sentient.
Check any biology book, and that's what they'll tell you.
Yeah, and I understand that. But I'm saying that it's descriptive. It's not prescriptive in the way that we. You know what I mean? Like we applied this understanding to it, so that it makes sense to us as this code.
The understanding to it because that's what it is.
But I mean, it's just us understanding what's already there. I mean, I don't know. I feel like it's, because we put, made it this specific way, it appears like, I mean, you could say it that way. Oh, this is like an instruction manual to create something, or it's just the way we're thinking about it to understand it better. We're putting that value to it.
That's kind of like debating the term.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it is because
there's translation going on, and translation means instructions, language.
Right. I mean, but we need. Here's the thing.
As I said when I started, Brent,
yeah.
I'm going by the most reasonable cause, and the most reasonable cause you can have for instructions is a mind, and that's the only thing we have for instructions is a mind. And I told atheists, I tell this atheists all the time. I said, you want to prove me wrong? I'm open to it. Go to Barnes and Noble, go to the local bookstore, go wherever you want to go, and ask them for a book that has no author, and bring it to me. If you can do that, not an unnamed author, no actual author. If you can do that, then you can prove me wrong.
Right, but I mean, aren't we like pattern-seeking creatures that? I mean,
find one.
I mean, I'm just saying we're like pattern-seeking creatures. So like we're gonna see something, and then we also anthropomorphize things as well. I mean, that's why Curious George is a thing. Because we see faces and things, we see things that are familiar to us, and then we apply it to things we don't. You know what I mean? So it's when we're looking at something like that, we're like, hey, the only way it could be is if there was a mind that did it. But we don't know.
No.
But there's other functions in the world that we just don't know about. I mean, what if it's something completely different that either of us could even think of? Okay,
again, you're a detective, and you're in a court case, and the evidence all points to this person. This person that did the crime. His fingerprints are on the knife. People saw him enter the room. They had arguments for years, and this guy's sitting on the trial stand. And the attorney on the other side, he says, well, you know what? There's 1 million people, let's say it's in Los Angeles. There's 1 million people in Los Angeles. Why aren't you trying that? And the same token, well, maybe the knife really doesn't exist. Maybe his fingerprints can be somebody else's fingerprints too. I'm saying beyond a reasonable doubt.
Right. Okay. And there is a major difference here.
Reasonable and improbable. Okay.
The major difference is that we have past examples of these things having happened, and we can look to the past examples of what has happened to be like, oh, well, given what we understand about all these past cases, and that's why lawyers use past cases. We don't have that for this. We don't have anything. We have nothing to reference. As far as we have multiple planets, multiple universes that we can. One is designed, one is not designed. We can go back and forth and be like, oh, this one looks like this, and that one looks like that, because one was designed and one wasn't. We don't have that. We have a sample set of one.
The evidence for DNA that we need. When there's instructions, there's never been a case when instructions didn't come from the mind.
But how are you basing this? Like, what are you using as something that's not designed?
Information principles say so. And I've had this same thing come up in discussions, and I give out odds. Okay, a guy by the name of Fred Hoyle. He gave odds on the first cell, and he's giving you the first cell. Okay, that's a huge jump. Okay, and I'm talking about evolution.
Right.
He gave an example. He's a mathematician, British mathematician. He was knighted for it. He knows what he's talking about, and he's not a Christian. He's an atheist. He's agnostic. And he gave the odds of from the first cell to human beings. He gave the odds. And he had to give it some sort of odds because that's what he was asked to do. He was asked, okay, what are the odds? You can't say they don't exist. That wasn't what they asked him. So he gave an odd. He said the chances are 1 chance in 10 to the 40,000 power. 1 chance. I said that in an atheist argument and they got happy. Because, well, see, there's a chance. Really? That's what you want? A chance of 1 in 10 to the 40,000. Do you know what kind of an astronomical number that is?
But we have nothing. I mean, you're taking it out of an X. I mean, that's not a number. Like we can't use just like this out of that. You know what I mean? Like you need a full number first. Before I don't even.
Let me bestow what kind of a number that is. There's only 10 to the 80th atoms in the known universe. 10 to the 80th. I'm talking about 10 to the 40,000 chance.
But how do you even get those numbers? That's what I'm saying. It's out of infinity. Out of infinity, this is the odds.
I can give you another one. It's worse than that. Carl Sagan, Mr. Billions and Billions of Years, that you probably watched in the 70s.
Right.
Ask what the chances are of life on other planets. You know, he's going by evolution. It evolved here. It didn't, but he said if it evolved here, what are the chances of it evolving somewhere else? And he gave a number. He's a mathematician too. Mm-hmm. His was worse because he was just life, period. He didn't get the first cell. He said life, period. Okay. One chance in 10 to 2 billion. So, Brent.
But again, we're
talking about, and if you want that one chance, I'll say okay. Just like I said, the guy that's talking about the rock. If you think that rocks can talk, okay, I'll give you that if that's what you want to think. But if you're going to take me down that road, I'm going to laugh at you.
Right. Which I don't blame you for that one in particular.
And the same thing comes into play when you're talking about instruction, Brent.
But I mean, what you're talking about is odds out of infinity. Out of infinity, the odds are, like, what are the odds out of an infinite amount of possible chances? What are the odds of this happening? It's like one of the numbers is incalculable. I don't even see how they can make those odds. I don't even see how they can make that assumption.
No, I agree with you in a way.
That doesn't make any sense.
It can't happen.
I mean, we're getting to really abstract concepts and everything, and I get that, but it's like we're trying to apply math.
And that's the other. It's either directed or it's not.
Right.
And this is undirected, is what I gave you. That leaves directed. And most atheists I talk to, when they come to the who, what, where, when, and why, they always want to leave out the who.
Yeah.
What, where, when, and why.
But I mean, I'm saying there could be a who. I'm just saying I don't know, and until there's like a demonstration of the who, because here let me give you a scenario real quick. Okay, let me give you a demonstration real quick, or like you did.
Right. Okay, I'm talking all this.
Okay, so if you come into a room, let's say I go into my room, right, and there's water spattered all over the walls. It's like dirty water. It's on the ceiling. It's everywhere. It's all over the room, And I'm like, dude, there's a dog shook itself off in my room. And I know that for a fact. There was a dog that came in here and shook itself off. And that's why this room got like this, And then my friend's like, oh, man, that sucks, dude. We're going to have to clean this up, And he's like, so you have a dog? And I'm like, no, I don't have a dog. And he's like, well, then how do you know a dog did all this, Because how else, look at it. Look what it looks like. It's all over the place. Like, what else could have done it? You know what I'm saying? And it's like, without a demonstration that the dog was of the dog, period, in that area, in that vicinity, we can't assume that the dog did what, we're thinking it looked like a dog would have done. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, there could be other reasons.
Yeah. Other reasons we're just not thinking of.
Right, you're still going by cause and effect. You have an effect, and you're trying to explain it. And you're coming to the most reasonable causation. Mm-hmm. Now, nothing different, because there's other things that can splatter water.
Exactly.
There's not other things that make up instructions. There aren't anything. I mean, there just isn't.
But how do you know that? How do you know there's nothing else that could possibly make instructions? Or cause instructions.
3,000 possibles. I'm not doing that. I'm going by what's reasonable and what is a reasonable causation. And the only one we know of. The only one we know that causes instructions. That's it.
But that's only because it's the God of the gaps. We always put a God where we don't understand things.
Brent, I'm willing to consider it, but you can't. I ask this to atheists, Brent. I ask this to atheists all the time.
But why a God? That's my question. Okay, it's like, couldn't it be something else?
I know God scares you.
No, I'm just
agnostic.
You're adding specifics.
Atheists out there, when you said God, they all got cringes.
No, I'm just saying you're adding specifics to something we don't know, and I'm like, how do you add specifics to X?
Again, if you want to replace God with designer, that's okay with me. I don't mind. Because all I'm saying is that
or a cause, just a cause.
Explanation that both atheists wants to jump to a naturalistic, materialistic explanation of the cause, it just doesn't work.
But you have to start from an objective standpoint and work backwards. You can't start with a God and then try to prove it. That seems like a lot of like what's going on.
If you want to use designer, I'm okay with that.
Or designer, sure.
I'm okay with that. I don't mind.
Well, we got to talk about God, man. That's what we're doing here.
I'm a Christian, and I believe that's the best explanation.
Yeah.
People that you've probably seen me on Facebook with this. I'm just going to say his middle name because I can't pronounce his full name. He says God, and he comes up with all this stuff, and he says religion, which I'm not religious. I'll just tell you that right now, I'm not.
You're not religious?
But no, I'm not. I don't believe in religion. Religion's man's attempt to make God happy, and you can't. But anyway, this guy said, well, there's logic and then there's religion.
Okay.
And I asked him some questions about that, and he couldn't answer me. Just like you can't answer me, and just like every atheist said, I'm not bagging on you, Brent.
Yeah, I'm not gonna act like I know something I don't know. Yeah.
And I'm not trying to say you're not smart. You seem like a smart guy, but there's something else going on because you won't allow this to come in, and most atheists I talk to won't. So it's not evidential. It's either emotional or it's volitional. Emotional meaning that some Christian in the past did something he shouldn't have done, and they do that all the time, regularly. I admit it. Yeah, Spanish Inquisition actually happened, and the church did it. So I get it. The reason why the Jewish people don't like Christians very much is because we haven't treated them very well over time. We haven't. And they have a reason to not like us.
Right.
And if that's what your reason is, if somebody treated you poorly that was a Christian, I get it. I get it. You shouldn't do that. Or it's volitional. Your volition is that you're not going to believe. And if that's the case, then not much I can say is change your mind.
Well, hold on. No, I'm perfectly willing to have my mind changed given like evidence.
I've given you enough to consider there's a designer outside the room. I've already done that.
I get that that's convincing for you, but I'm just saying I feel like the X factor there, the fact that there's a variable that we can't calculate at all, and then we're trying to pull, what are the odds of a universe starting based on what? Like, I feel like that's not. I just feel like it's trying to prove something you want to believe. That's more, where I'm just standing tentatively waiting for evidence.
With that idea, because Stanley in the wheelchair, Stephen Hawking, he had the same problem. He's a materialist, and he blinded his eyes to anything that wasn't material. So he made that silly statement. I'm going to repeat it. Since the laws of physics exist, especially the law of gravity, the universe can and will create itself from nothing. Do you know how silly that argument? This is an educated guy. He was sitting at the chair of cosmology at Cambridge, the one that Isaac Newton used to sit in. And he came up with that statement. Do you know how silly that is? Gravity doesn't, the law of gravity, first of all, the law of gravity is just us explaining how gravity works.
Right.
Gravity only works once something exists.
Right.
Gravity has no effect on something that doesn't exist. It's just a silly statement. And the reason why he makes something like that is because he won't allow the supernatural to be considered. And once you do that,
we need a demonstration of it first.
You're stuck in a box that you can't go out of.
We can't appeal to supernature until we can have it. Until it's demonstrated to exist.
That's my point, Brent. That's inside the room, and there's stuff that you can't explain from inside the room. Talking about the universe,
right? And that's cool. Like that's something, and that's just the way it is. We got to continue to
think there's something outside the room.
But if you've already decided what the thing is, hold on 1 second. If you've already decided what the thing is, then you what you do is you negate the ability to actually find out what it could be. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's almost like when you're trying to teach the guy at work and he keeps telling you that he knows everything and then does it wrong. You know what I mean? And you're like, dude, I'm trying to train you here, so that you do the job right. And he's like, dude, I know what I'm doing, bro. I know. Okay, I know how to mop a floor. And then he mops himself into a corner and then has to walk over it and leave a bunch of footprints. And you're like, dude, I was trying to tell you not to do that. But he's like, I already know how to do it. And it keeps you from being able to learn.
There's a certain process to mopping the floor.
Right.
And it involves a certain process. You get the mop, you put soap in the water, and you mop the floor. There's a process to it.
Right.
And you're saying that someone that already doesn't know how to mop floors won't listen to you.
Right.
Brent, I'm the guy that knows, and you're the guy that won't listen.
No, because I'm saying I don't know.
Reasons that only have one solution.
I'm a student. I'm willing to learn. That's the difference. You're saying you already know what caused it.
Okay, and again, in a court case, okay, the other attorney says, well, okay, you have all this evidence for this one guy doing it. You know, the fingerprints are on the knife. His blood's, the guy that he murdered, his blood's under his fingernails. People saw him arguing. He saw him into the room. But you know what? There may be another guy out there somewhere. Is the judge going to allow that? He's going to say, well, prove it. Proof.
Right.
The judge says proof.
And that's what we need for your claim, because you're the one making the claim, and I'm saying I don't know. So it's on you.
He wants proof.
Yeah.
He's not going to listen to stuff, well, this may be. Okay, we'll prove it. That's why I'm telling you. Go to the bookstore, bring me a book that has no author, and you'll prove your point. Let me tell you in advance, you won't be
5 books in the Bible. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. Those are books that have no authors. We have no idea who wrote them.
Well, we know there was one. Otherwise, it wouldn't be written.
Right, yeah.
You're talking
but I'm just saying, he said, find me a book with no author. I was just saying.
And you can make that point if you want. We're not really going into the Bible. I'll be happy to come on and do that.
I actually do want to go into some, because I just want to hear some of your responses to some apologetics, because I like apologetics. What's that?
Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, whether you're thinking it was a copy later or whether you think it was the original, it still had an author.
Sure.
You agree?
Yeah, or it could have had multiple authors, you know, or it could have had an author that told somebody a story and they died, and then somebody else wrote it down for them. There's a lot of different options that it could have happened.
But it didn't have no author.
But it didn't happen to no one. So this is completely off of the assumption that there was at one time nothing. 0 things. Because even God was flying over the waters. He says he was flying over waters. He hadn't created water yet, but he was flying over them somehow.
Neil deGrasse Tyson. What's the other guy's name? He always escapes my brain. Anyway, everybody believes it. There's nothing. I mean, some people go to the multiverse thing. Okay.
That's argument ad populum. I don't really care what they believe. You know, I know they're really smart guys and everything, and and I'm supposed to look up to them if I'm an atheist and everything. But you know, I kind of just going by what I'm thinking here. You know what I'm saying? And I'm just like, I don't see a good reason to believe that there was a time when there was nothing, when there was 0 things, where there was the opposite. You know, that sounds just ridiculous to me.
Well,
but I mean, maybe I'm in a disagreement with all of science. Fair enough.
Make an evaluation. Be a detective.
Mm-hmm.
Time passes.
Mm-hmm.
There's only a limited number of events in the universe, no matter how old you think it is. There's only a limit.
I don't know if that's true.
You evaluate things and make assumptions, Brent, and that's what we're supposed to do. God gave us a brain.
Right.
So,
but I'm just saying, I don't know if that's true. I mean, I don't know if it doesn't go back forever.
You don't know.
Like, why not?
I know you have a brain, Brent, because you're a smart guy.
Yeah, but why does there have to be a start? I'm just like, I'm fine with the idea that it's just things were always here, like this planets and stuff flying around, just whatever, no creation, just was here. I mean, there was stuff before God, like in the Bible, there were things here before God. He was saying he was flying over the waters and stuff. When did he make waters?
Anything before God. The Bible doesn't say that.
Because your God gets to have a magic he's being outside of time. Like, okay, if my thing's special, it's special pleading.
It makes perfect sense.
How does it make perfect sense?
Because cause and effect.
Because of cause and effect.
It makes perfect sense. Causation has to be outside the effect. It has to be. Everything is that we see. Everything.
Sure, I'm not saying that things didn't cause other things. I'm just saying, what if it's just infinitely backwards? Like, you know, I don't know.
It could be, but I'm talking, if you want to live your life on possibility, I'm going to live mine on probability. That's what atheists all the time. Okay, if you want to believe in 1 chance of 10 to the 40,000th power, okay.
We don't know that you can't calculate that out of infinity. That's such a weird, the odds of how, based off of what base number? How did you get that number? How did he? And I know you're quoting somebody else, and that's fine, because I've never heard that equation and stuff. I'm just saying, where did you get because don't you have to have something if you're gonna have odds, right? Like if I'm gonna flip a coin 5 times, right? Then the odds would be based on the fact that I'm flipping the coin 5 times, right?
Sure.
But since we don't have a number of times the coin could be flipped, we can't calculate odds. That's my point.
I don't know, understand that one, but where he came up with his odds is he just gathered the chances.
How
often can amino acids? Let me give you what he thought about. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And in DNA. The DNA part, the amino acids are all left-handed, every single one of them. There's no right-handed amino acids. They're like socks. There's one for the right, left, or shoes. Let's say shoes. Right,
yeah.
left. That's how
Socks.
That's how amino acids are. There's right-handed and left-handed amino acids.
Gotcha.
The amino acids that make up DNA are left-handed, every single one of them. Right. And in RNA, all the amino acids are right-handed.
Okay.
Ordering to you? It's ordering. And Fred Hoyle brought up that kind of stuff. And he said, okay, we have amino acids in a pool. Okay? Mm-hmm. There's amino acids in a pool. And the most simple life consists of about 2,000 amino acids, all of them left-handed. In this pool that you get your amino acids from, I'll tell you what, I'll give you those.
Mm-hmm.
All there. Right and left-handed amino acids are all there because that's how they get produced. They're all there.
Right.
So to make up this string of 2,000, you have to flip the coin, like you were just talking about, 2,000 times in a row and only come up with left-handed every single time.
Okay.
If one right-handed amino acids, it destroys the whole thing. You have to start over.
Yeah. And that's why trees put out like a billion seeds.
Hold on, let me just finish this. What's the most reasonable explanation for that? The most reasonable explanation is somebody put it that way.
But why is it so, like, to me, it's like if
somebody is a mind, you're lining them up in order. Order comes from a mind.
Or a process that was started,
okay,
and we don't know what started it.
Bringing up this stuff that's rocks thinking, and okay, if you think rocks think, then okay.
Or just two things came together, and it just happened to do that the way that it did. I'm not saying that it's
in a row, all lined up, and it just happened to be that way.
Why couldn't it be like a compound of different chemicals and agents that came together and started this process? Why does it have to be that it's a mind? I'm just so odd. Like I just don't, and that we don't see a demonstration of a mind anywhere. The world's chaotic. Everything's chaotic. Like there is nothing in control. There's no possible way it could be.
Life is not chaotic at all.
What?
Life is very well designed, and it only works a certain way. There's no such thing as spontaneous generation, is what you're talking about. Life coming from nothing that was disproved.
So hold on, because we're in the abiogenesis portion, right? So this is basically a bunch of shit. Stuff we don't know.
I get that all the time. No problem. I don't mind.
Right? Okay. Oh, okay. Because I swear a lot, and I'm trying to temper it for you.
It's funny though. Just as an aside, because Robert gets on his show every once. I get on the show with him, and I listen to his other shows, and the language comes out. And when he does it with me, he tells me I'm sorry.
Yeah.
That's what makes me laugh. That because I'm Christian, and I believe in God, that people think they need to talk a certain way around me.
Right.
And there's a reason for that. But
does that bother you that people think that way?
No, it's actually, I think what they realize is that there is a God, and I'm one of his kids, and you need to treat me. They think they need to treat me with respect. You really don't. That's what they think. They think there's some respect due.
It sounds like a lot of assumptions.
Okay.
I don't know about their intentions.
It's with me because I don't talk that way, but I know the world does, so I'm not upset by it.
Okay. All right. Cool. Yeah, I just want to make sure because
just get past that.
Okay. So and fair enough. We'll just. I mean, those were actually you did pretty good actually with that. Again, it's based off a lot of stuff that we just don't know, and I'm saying I'm okay with not knowing. And you're like, no, I need to know, and I'm going to apply this to it. Right?
Well, I'm a detective, and so are you.
Right.
And I have to figure out my surroundings around me and what's the most probable cause. and the most probable cause is that there's a designer.
Right. Okay. So beyond the designer, let's get more specific. Right.
Okay.
Okay. So let's.
We've decided that the most probable cause is a designer.
I'm not convinced that's the case, but I you make a compelling case. I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
I'll be okay with that. Compelling case, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Okay. So the one thing that I have to say really confuses me about a lot of, and you say you're not necessarily, well, you're a Christian, but you say you're not religious?
I'm not. Well, let me tell you why. Because religion is man's attempt. I mean, there's Islam, there's Hinduism, there's Zoroaster, there's so many of them, I can't name them all.
So you apply religion to all the other religions, but yours is different.
There's Mormonism, there's Jehovah's Witnesses, there's a couple others.
Those are subsets of Christianity, yeah. Or you know,
there's a difference, and even Judaism, for that matter.
Yeah. Well, Christianity is actually a subset of Judaism, but okay, yeah.
Well, it's all messianic. I'll give you that, but it changed, and actually, it didn't change. The Jews just had it wrong, and now I'm going to get nailed for my Jewish friends. But anyway, they had it wrong. God was gracious, and He was always trying to tell them that He'd forgive them, but they just asked, and sometimes they wouldn't. But here's the difference over all of them, and let's leave Judaism out because there is a correlation there. So all the other ones is all man's attempt to be good enough for God. That's religion. Following a bunch of rules, thinking you're good enough, praying 3 times a day, going to Mecca at least once, and talking about Islam, going to Mecca at least once in your life, giving a certain amount of money to the poor, all these things that make you good enough for God. That's religion. Okay. I'm not religious because I don't believe in any of that because I can't do it. Christianity is completely different. If you think Christianity has anything to do with the 10 Commandments, it doesn't. All the 10 Commandments is a mirror showing you're not good enough. God came and died on the cross for me. Okay. He made it so I can enter heaven and spend eternity with Him. That's why I'm not religious. Because it has nothing to do with me other than
I'm sorry. That's all it is. You just explained your religion and said that's why I'm not religious.
You confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised Him from the dead, you will be saved. That's nothing to do with me being right, because I'm not.
But it's still you having to do things.
All that to say, that's the reason why I say I'm not religious. I'm not. I'm a Christian.
But you're not really.
That's who I am, is I'm a Christian.
So we're just redefining words here. That's what we're doing.
No, I didn't say I'm not religious.
I mean, I don't care. We can redefine it.
Say religion, okay.
Words are not.
I know where they're coming from. Either atheistic or agnostic. One of the two.
I would just say to be fair, it appears to me that Christianity is a religion. Is that fair? If I say it appears to me that Christianity is a religion.
It's defined as one of the religions. But if you go by what I just said, it really isn't. That's okay. It's just semantics.
Sure. Yeah. It's semantics. That's what I was getting at. But yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Anyway,
yes, I'm a Christian. I believe the Bible is the Word of God, and I believe it's accurate and factual where it means to be accurate and factual.
And do you believe in the Holy Spirit?
And kind of, it uses symbolism, things like that. It's there. Like I said, He was the door. Well, we both know He's not a door. He's using symbolism. The door is where you enter things at.
Right.
He's a door of heaven. When He calls Himself a door, that's symbolism.
Sure.
You listen to Robert's thing. He said, "Eat my flesh, drink my blood." He didn't. That's not what He meant. You have to read it and understand it, but that's not what He meant.
Still a pretty creepy thing to say. I mean, ask me.
There's symbolism, and you have to read the whole thing. Like I kept telling Robert, it's about context. And you have to read the context. So
okay. So what? And how can we determine in the Bible?
Let me just finish.
Okay, go ahead.
It needs to be literal. I take it literal. I take Genesis literal.
Oh, okay. That was good. What I was going to ask. So that's good.
I'm a younger creationist. That's going to blow all your atheist minds.
Jesus.
But I am. That's what I am. I'm a younger creationist because Genesis reads that way. Now, there's other people at my church that disagree with me about that. They think there's a certain portion that you put a bunch of time into. I don't think so, but that's not the question I'm going to be asked at the pearly gates.
Sure.
Whether the universe is old or young, and they're not going to ask you that.
Right.
So I don't care. That's okay. But just to tell you who I am, that's who I am.
Now, would they go to hell because of that?
No.
So they can disbelieve part of the Bible and
they can
still
come
go
up
to
with
heaven.
a different evaluation of it, but that's not doctrine.
Wouldn't you have do you believe in the Holy Spirit?
I believe that Jesus Christ died on the cross for my sins, and God raised him from the dead.
Right, and he gave us the Holy Spirit after that, right?
My church believes that same thing. Now, they may have a different effect on time.
But why? If there's a Holy Spirit, why is it that he's giving different communications to different people? Why
I don't think he is.
Well, I mean, I know people that have fervently seeked the Lord,
and God says to give them millions of dollars so they can buy $1 million jets too.
But I mean, if we have one Holy Spirit and then we have Calvinism and Arminianism, why is that? Why can't the Holy Spirit communicate to each person the same message?
He does, Brent. We just don't listen. We don't listen. Somebody that says, God told me that you need to give me $1 million that I can buy a jet.
These people are fervent. They really want to know. They want to know what the Holy Spirit's saying, and you're saying that they're ignoring what the Holy Spirit is telling them?
Of course, because their main aspect is money.
Then how can you? That's another assumption on your part. No offense, but you're assuming intentions here.
That hasn't changed. At the time Jesus was around, the Pharisees were making a ton of money. They had more money than probably anybody did. He went into their place and got all these money changers that gave them money once they were done, ripping these people off. And he came in and he turned over all the tables. And the one time that he really got angry was that time.
Yeah.
It hasn't changed. There's lots of people that look at Christianity as a way of making money.
And yet a bookstore is like a normal thing for churches these days. But I'm just saying.
The pastors need to be supported. I just don't think they need to fly in a $90 million jet.
Sure. Okay. I totally agree with you.
They can make their family. That's what the First Testament said too, was that the Levites were supposed to be supported by the rest of the community because they weren't going to do anything other than just try to give them God's plan.
But let's back up 1 second. Hold on 1 second. Let's back up just for a second.
There's guys that made it wrong. I agree with you. There are. There's guys that
But how is that possible? If when you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and the Holy Spirit comes in you, that's the same God that's inside of everyone. How come there's different denominations of people that are fervently seeking God and really wanting to listen to the Holy Spirit and they believe that they are? Why is that that God's like he's giving different messages to everybody?
I'm not so sure that everybody's so fervent as you described him to be.
I know a lot of fervent Christians that all have different beliefs about certain things, and it's like the Holy Spirit told me this, and the Holy Spirit told them something different. So I'm like, I don't.
Well, we'll learn about the reality of it when we get there. But for me,
I just
literally, where it's meant to be literal, and Genesis is meant to be literal. It's not subjective. It's not like the Psalms.
Is there an asterisk that like tells you what's literal and what's metaphor?
Like you can make that assumption yourself. I mean, when Jesus says he's the door, you know he's not a door.
But I thought God wasn't the God of confusion. Why is it that
he says he's the Lamb of God? You have to take that in context. You have to go to the Old Testament and read Exodus and read about the Lamb.
Sure.
Of God. When he says I'm the Lamb of God, of course he's not. He's a human, a man like we are. But there's a correlation involved. That's what the whole First Testament was about. It was about sacrificing a lamb that had no spot or blemish, hadn't done anything wrong, and that was going to be their payment for sin. Jesus said, I'm the Lamb of God because he's using that allusion to Jewish people. Remember something, when you read the New Testament, he's talking to Jewish people completely.
Right.
And when he makes references that are reference to Judaism, that's what he was doing. He talked to the Jewish people.
Yeah, and because then God admitted he made a mistake, and he was like, I gotta fix it because I apparently make mistakes now, and I gotta send me down to die for me for rules that I made up.
No, God doesn't make mistakes.
What? Yeah, he did. He admitted it. It's in Isaiah. He says, I admitted that I never should have made humanity. I regret. You don't regret something unless you make a mistake. You don't regret something unless you make a mistake.
Yeah, that word was different in the terminology then, but
okay, then why does God? Why wasn't God like involved in the translation process? That's my other question. Why did he just let people mess up his holy word?
And you remember what it said when the flood came. He said, all of humanity has nothing but evil in their minds all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what he said. He said he was sorry that it came to place like that.
Because he made them that way.
Let me
But
explain
he made
to you,
them that way.
Question all the time: why is there evil in the world? Which is what you're getting at.
Sure.
What you're getting at: why is there evil in the world?
But why did he make evil in the world? He admits to making evil. He created evil.
No,
It's
he didn't
admitted.
make evil.
He says it in the Bible. It says God created evil. Hold on, I'll find you the verse.
Where?
Real quick. I'm pretty sure it's in that same section about in Isaiah. I'm not totally positive, but I know there's a part where it says God created. It was one of the biggest issues I had with what was going on. See, there it is. God created evil. It's in, let's see, Isaiah 45:7.
All right, let me minimize here. Hopefully that doesn't get rid of you.
I'm still here. Okay, here we're good. Oh shit, that was a Christian website.
I form the light and I create the darkness. I make peace and create evil, meaning that he gave us a choice. I, the Lord.
Come on. Then why didn't he say that? Why is he so confusing?
Where Satan came from.
What?
Light and darkness. Because he did. That's what it said in Genesis. Light and darkness. So he created Satan. We can go to Isaiah 14:7 and we can find out exactly what happened. He gave Satan a choice too, and the angels. So did he create the ability to have an evil choice? Yeah. He had to give us a choice. Right. In the garden, people ask me, well, why did the garden go bad? Why did he have to create the tree of knowledge of good and evil? Why do you have to create it?
Right.
He had to give you a choice.
That's a great question. Why? Why did he have
people that can make choices? Why?
Let
me finish because I get this question.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead.
And then I'll shut up. Okay.
I know it's a lot to explain.
He had to give us a choice.
Okay.
Why? Because he's a God of love. If you have love, then you have to have a choice. I assume you're married. I see a picture.
It's my girlchoice. Yeah, okay, but we've been together long enough to be married.
Yeah. Because she wants to be. You didn't have to hold a gun to her head to make her do it, right?
Right.
Choice, and she made a choice to be with you. Same with you. I'm married. My wife's in the background. You can see me walk around. You can't see, but anyway, she made a choice to marry me too. There's lots of questions from people. Why? Because she's way better looking than me, but she did make that choice. I didn't have to hold a gun to her head.
Right.
It's the same way.
She lets you know she exists, though,
Just
right?
Finish. He wants you to make a choice. He had to give you a choice to make it because he wants love. You have to have a choice for love. And he had to put the ability for you to choose wrong around. And you can call that evil. The knowledge of good and evil is a tree. Satan tempted them to eat it. And from then on, we have what we have now. God created a place that had no entropy. It was perfect. He gave people a choice because he has to. Just like he does right now. He doesn't want robots. Robots can't have love.
Is there free will in heaven?
He created people as with robots that can't make a choice. He couldn't have love. He had to give us a choice. He had to give me a choice. Let me give you a little inside information. You may have heard it in my talk with Robert. He gave me the choice to be enough of an idiot to put 666 on the back of my hockey jersey. He gave me that choice to do something like that.
It's pretty awesome.
I did it. I had that choice to do it. I didn't understand what I was doing because I didn't know the Bible when I was that age. I had no idea. I wasn't raised Christian.
Right.
I had no idea what that meant. I just saw it in a movie, and there was a Christian team on my hockey league I used to run, and I did it to piss them off. That's what I used to be. I'm not that way anymore. But he gave me that choice, and I could do that. I wouldn't do it now because I understand now. But that's the point on choice. And yeah, God created something that wasn't good in the garden because he had to give people a choice.
Does he give people a choice in heaven? Do people have free will in heaven?
The only people that get to heaven are the ones that have already made that choice to go there.
But then they get to have free will while they're there.
But the Bible says in 1 John chapter 3, it says, seeing him will be like him. Jesus is perfect. He's the only perfect being that ever walked the earth. And seeing him, we will be like him.
So why couldn't we start there? Like, if he's capable of making things with free will in paradise, why all of this?
Because this is the proving ground. You have to make the decision here.
So
if that wasn't the case, Brent, then you would have heaven as it is here. People flying airplanes into buildings, people killing people because their belief system, color of their skin, whatever. That kind of stuff.
But they still have the choice to do those things in heaven if we have free will.
We don't have that. We won't make that choice. Because those things will be taken from us. Seeing him, we will be like him.
Okay.
We won't have that problem anymore. We won't have the fleshly desires that we have now. We won't have that anymore.
Then why couldn't he have started without giving us fleshly desires or whatever?
That I can reason about it, but I don't understand it completely. If I understood it completely, then I'd be God. I'm not.
So you're about where I am about the beginning of everything, about this.
No, I'm not.
You're saying I don't know, and I'm okay with that.
I factor things. I'm a detective. I look at the most reasonable causation, and I go with it.
Sure. No, yeah, I'm just saying. But with this, in this instance, you're okay. You're okay in this instance, though, with not knowing. You're like saying, well, it's just a God thing, and the book's definitely true and right.
It's not the way for me to know it. The example that I gave you about Mr. Flatland,
yeah,
Mr. Flatland doesn't know up and down. He's okay with it because he doesn't know it. I'm okay with it. Jesus walking on water, Jesus healing blind men, Jesus healing lepers, all those things. I'm okay with that because he created in the first place. If you believe Genesis 1:1, the rest of it's easy. In the beginning, God
because magic is involved, so it's just the answer to everything.
Everything after that is easy.
Yeah, because you have this X factor magic.
Being, someone from a higher dimension than we are, controlling all the things that we know he could have to control. That's the reason why I believe Jesus was God, because he did things God would have to be able to do.
See, that was my other question. Do you believe Jesus is God or the Son of God?
Listen to me for a second. I'm going to give you the Bible verse so you can see.
Okay.
Control of time. He created water into wine instantly. That takes time. He had control over time. He walked on water.
And real quick, I know this is a caveat, but like that was a parlor trick at the time. That was a popular parlor trick.
He did things to make you realize that he is. And I only put out 2 of them. There's 2 more. Healed from a distance. He had control over space and energy. He calmed the seas. He did all those things. That's what you would expect someone who created the universe to be able to do.
But then he doesn't even know which seed's the smallest seed, even though he made all the seeds. Why didn't he just say the orchid seed is the smallest of all seeds?
Mustard
the orchid
seed is the smallest one in the region of Israel.
But he created the whole world.
Same thing I said to Robert. He's dealing with the Jewish people. Same thing that he said he didn't know which way the winds blew. That's not true. He said you don't know which way the wind blows or where it comes from.
And why didn't he specify that? Why didn't he say it's the smallest seed in Israel?
He didn't know.
He didn't say that. He said it's the smallest of all seeds, as if he didn't know that an orchid seed existed.
Israel, that was the smallest seed.
And
he was talking to the Jewish people.
But so why didn't he just say that?
There's a seed in South America, which wasn't called that then. There's a seed in South America that's smaller, but you can't see it. Why would he say that? The Jewish people understood what they had in front of them. They're an agricultural society.
Because he could have educated them about the smallest seed that they didn't know about, and then that would actually be a good demonstration that he knows things they don't about the earth, and because he created it. Why wouldn't he do that?
He did.
He did?
Yeah.
He said that there's a seed smaller than the mustard seed.
No.
And then educated them about it.
He said other things that
it's like later, this is really going to make sense to people later. You don't, I mean, this is for the people in the future. Okay.
He said lots of things.
Why didn't he do that?
He said lots of things that'll make sense to people later.
Like,
he said the universe is expanding. All throughout Psalms, all throughout the Bible, he said the universe is expanding.
That was Daniel said that.
He said it had a beginning. And that wasn't believed until the 1930s, that the universe had a beginning. As a matter of fact, Aristotle said the universe was a term. And most of science believed the same thing.
Well, we're talking about our local universe, right?
Genesis said in the beginning. God has always said there was a beginning. It finally came to that conclusion with much consternation after Hubble looked through a telescope and saw everything was expanding. Then the cosmology society started thinking, okay, well, could this be? They finally came, and I'm telling you, they had a hard time coming to it because it made the creationists right, and I'm telling you the truth. But they finally came to that conclusion. Hawking and Penrose in 1970 said time, space, matter, and energy all had a beginning. That should sound familiar to you. Genesis 1:1 says the same thing. In the beginning, time, God created the universe, space, created matter, created the earth, matter.
Yeah, and I know that they've said that, and I think they're talking about our local universe. I'm talking about the cosmos.
1,500 years earlier.
Okay.
3,500 years earlier.
Weren't they talking about our local universe?
No.
They were talking about the cosmos.
Aristotle said that the universe was eternal. And we've already had that discussion. Why he said that, he's a smart guy. He should have known just by time, but that doesn't work. But that's what he said. And that was the common belief. Look it up. That was the common belief until 1930. And even after that, they had struggles. Einstein said that was his biggest mistake, not realizing that the universe had a beginning. That was his biggest mistake. And he said so.
And I still feel like it's something that we can't know. Like whether I know there's a lot of good theories by a lot of smart people, but
denial, Brent?
Huh?
Where you're talking about the physical term, psychological term for what you're saying right now is denial. You can deny it if you want to.
What?
The guy who thinks rocks can think. They can't. But
I'm just saying I don't know. I'm not applying knowledge to something that I don't know. I'm not going to act like I know something I don't know.
Right? Talk to atheists all the time. You're supposed to be a detective. Things to the most reasonable.
And if it's undetectable, I don't have an opinion until there's evidence.
It's not undetectable.
Like what?
Like I said, I can't show you a picture, Brent. All I can do is give you the most reasonable causation. And actually, I can give you the only causation for some of them. And if you want to think there's something else coming along, okay. But let me tell you this, Brent. The reason why I came on here is not to prove you wrong or argue with you. The reason why I came on here is because you're made in the image of God. And God's told me to go out and talk to people like that. I gave me that assignment. I don't know, but it's what he gave me. And you're made in the image of God. And he wants you to understand that he's there. I didn't come on here to try to prove I'm smart because I'm not. God has just shown me this stuff. And the reason why I come on here is because even though I don't know you very well, I don't want you going to hell. And there is eternity involved. Eternity in a place that's wonderful beyond imagination, right. As Paul said.
Right. Okay, let's just stop. Right. I mean, and I appreciate your concern. Okay, you just got to speed it up, man. Speed it up. Because I've heard this a billion times. It's okay.
I know, but you in the atheist community, you're trying to lead people astray. You and Phil Calderon from out here, Robert Stanley, friend of mine, love the guy. But you're trying to lead people astray, and God's not going to think that that's okay.
No, I'm actually trying to get people to think more for themselves and not apply things with specificity to things they don't know. That's what I'm trying to get people to do.
You can know.
And that are harmful. Then believe things that are harmful to groups of people in America. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it just is. The Westboro Baptist Church is harmful.
Yeah, they're a bunch of idiots.
Okay, they're basing it off of your book.
No, I'm not.
The Old Testament and the New Testament says you should execute gay people.
They're not basing anything off the book.
It says it in the book, both the Old Testament and the New Testament.
You will know them. You will know them by their love. Where in the world is Westboro Baptist showing any?
And that's tough love in their mind, man.
That's like,
it's like, come on.
You know how many people are at Westboro Baptist? There's 8 of them. 8.
I've seen the videos. There's more than that.
And if I was
you mean pastors? 8 pastors? That's normal for a church that size.
You have no idea who Jesus is. You have no idea who he is. Because he said for you to love your enemies. He said,
but they think they do.
Knowing you by your love.
And how can you separate what you think you know from what they think they know?
That they're going to hell? That's just abhorrent. That's not Christian at all. And there's been, Brent, I agree with you, there's been plenty of times when the church has not shown Jesus at all. The Catholic Church didn't show Jesus for a long time. Sorry, Catholics out there, but you didn't. You showed money, and money was your God.
So they're not doing Christianity right, and you are. That's what you're saying.
I'm agreeing with you, Brett. You're right. There's been lots of times when the church has been wrong.
So how do you know you're right? That's my question.
Jesus. They're not following what Jesus said. They're doing what they want to do.
They think they're following what Jesus said because it's in there twice to kill gay people, or that they should be, they're worthy of death. That's what it says.
Where did you see Jesus say that?
Paul says it.
Paul says it.
Okay.
But Jesus said that.
So you're saying that the Bible can disagree with itself?
Let me just do this in the physical realm, okay? Let me just go away from the fact that, yeah, you're right. If you do that and you keep practicing it, just like if I kept practicing adultery on my wife, I'm not going to heaven. If I keep doing that and I have no concern for her welfare whatsoever. But let me just take this in the physical realm, okay?
So you do believe that they are worthy of death.
The fact that there's eternity in the balance, let me just do it in the physical realm, okay? The gay lifestyle is dangerous to your health, okay? It is. And so is cheating. God says to get married one time and stay married the whole time.
And there's gay people that do that.
Said that, and the designer has made you so it works that way, then it should work that way. But here's the thing. If everybody did what God said to do in the Bible, all people, we wouldn't have AIDS, we wouldn't have gonorrhea, we wouldn't have syphilis, we wouldn't have all these epidemic level sexually transmitted diseases wouldn't exist.
Because wait, hold on. If we did what? If we did
way, and we don't want them to work that way.
But wait, what caused all that? What caused all the AIDS and all that stuff? What is it?
Well, AIDS is not sure exactly where it started. At least science doesn't think so. But I know where it's at.
Where?
You both know where it's at.
Where?
It's mainly in the male homosexual community. That's where it's at.
I mean, that's where it first took, like, got the attention.
That's where it's at.
And people basically, and I don't know if you know this, but people let them die for a long time because they were gay, and the government just didn't give a shit.
Gonorrhea and syphilis kill people too. It has anything to do with the male action. That's somebody cheating. Okay, so that kills you too. I'm not ragging on them. They're no worse than somebody who wants to sleep around or somebody who wants to cheat on their wives or husbands. It's no different.
But that wasn't the cause of it. I mean, but even so, I'm just saying that it affects like straight people too. Like it's crazy to say that gay people caused these things. That's crazy.
From the beginning, Brent, you didn't listen to me.
Okay, no, that's why I was asking you to clarify.
Everybody doing it. From the beginning, everybody doing it. I get it that now once it's not that way, people get it from blood transfusions. I get it. But if it didn't exist that way, if people followed what God told them to do. All people,
not just gay people, right?
No, all people.
Okay.
They all followed what God told them to do. He said there's a man and a woman. It's Adam and Eve, not Adam and Steve is the famous joke.
Oh,
that's the way it was. And he said that is
people are not. There's mammals that are naturally born that way. People are naturally born this way. We've gone through a lot of research to try. I mean, gay people would come to the psychiatrist and ask them to make them straight in the 50s, and they couldn't do it because that's not the way it works.
There's identical twin studies in many different countries that show that that's not the case. Identical twin studies in many different countries. One of the identical twins is straight and one's gay. That's not the case. They're not born that way.
Because identical twins aren't the same, man. They're not the same in every single way. They have the same brain function. They have the same exact brain chemistry.
Identical twins are exactly the same in their DNA. One went gay and one went straight. They're not born that way. But I'm not ragging on them, okay?
That's not a good. That's
I've made bad choices too.
But
I'm refraining from them now because I've become born again. I've decided I'm going to follow God. That doesn't mean I'm perfect, but I've decided that I'm going to follow God. And if I start doing stuff wrong, I know it's wrong. People that don't think that's wrong, that's the problem. People that don't think adultery is wrong, that's the problem.
I don't think it's wrong. I know that for a fact
in the end,
that it's not wrong.
They're going to go where they want to go because those people have decided that God isn't their God. They decided Jesus didn't die for them, and they're going to go where they want to go.
That's just not true. I mean, there is Christian people that live that lifestyle. He's not going to
force anybody, Brent, to go to heaven. He doesn't force anybody to do that. You have to make the decision that's where you want to go. And if you make the decision that's not where you want to go, he'll honor it.
And I need you to demonstrate that these things are actually true.
Well, I think I've demonstrated that at least you said I made a good case for God existing.
No, I mean, you made a good case for a vague designer.
Of God, designer.
Yeah, a vague designer. I mean, I wouldn't even go as far as the specificity of a God at that point. But I mean, and yeah, sure. I mean, I don't know a whole lot about science. I've only been an atheist for 2 years. I don't know a whole. I mean, what I've researched, it makes sense to me and everything. But when it gets to this abstract and nothing stuff, I'm just like, yeah, I'm not convinced that any of us can really say with any kind of confidence what actually happened. That was my point. But adding this level of specificity to the God, and then adding now the Bible, because I mean you're running through presuppositions like it's crazy. Like now, first of all, you're presupposing that a God exists. Second of all, you're presupposing that the God that does exist is your God, and then you're presupposing that you're interpreting that God correctly.
Well, reasons why God exists. It's not my assumption, and you're saying, well, things that you can't prove might be. Okay, like I said, if you want to think rocks think, then okay.
I've never said that rocks think. I didn't say that. And that's kind of its offense. I mean, you're just like making a dig at me.
And the guy that said talking about the rocks said the same thing. They could. Okay, well, prove it.
Or demonstrate some evidence. Because I mean, you're saying that because I thought that you do believe that the rocks are going to cry out at one point. I mean, that's what's in the book. So actually, he's actually more right than you are, according to what you believe.
Donkeys talk too.
Yeah, don't get me started on that. Jeez Louise.
Okay. God talked through them, and God can talk through the rocks too if that's what he wanted to do.
So then he was right, and you were making him sound like an idiot when he was actually right according to your belief.
Just like the voice came out of the donkey, it could come out of the rocks too, but they don't think.
Yeah, because magic is just a thing now, apparently. Even though it's not been, supernature has never been demonstrated. Even with all of the phones that we all have now, we can finally film, things like cars crashing in the weirdest ways and all these other things that are, perfectly natural that happen. But we can't seem to be able to film anything supernatural. Don't you think that's kind of weird?
Oh, being that we're in one dimension and God's in the next, I wouldn't expect it to.
Then how does he affect this universe? Because we'd be able to see it.
Just like I affected Mr. Flatland.
But with the paper, then wouldn't we see a giant finger poking through the universe or whatever? I mean,
no, actually, you saw God put on flesh that only God could do. You didn't see it, but people at the time saw it, and they wrote it down, and they died for their testimony.
One person saw it. I mean, one person wrote down that a bunch of people saw it.
Far away from each other, that couldn't communicate with each other, still said, "This is what I saw, and I'm willing to die for it." And that's not just biblical testimony. I can give you plenty of pagan sources.
That was the claim, though. I mean, because all these stories came out well after the fact. We don't know if they...
These Christians believe that they have eternal life, and they're willing to die for it.
And people can be mistaken. They can think that something happened and be mistaken.
If you want to deny history, Brent, again.
It's not denying history. Okay, that's not the fact.
But okay, that's all right.
These things were not recorded in history, and that's sort of the problem.
But if you don't want to believe it, then that's up to you.
It's not. That's not how belief works, man. Belief doesn't work that way.
If you don't want to, then that's okay.
No, it's not about wanting or not wanting. That's what I don't think you don't get, is that you're either convinced of something based off of what is convincing to you, or you're not.
It's volitional, Brent.
How?
Now you're saying
it's volition to go ahead and say, yeah, I'll accept these things are true, even though I can't see how they could possibly be true. Yeah, and I can, I can be socially pressured to stand up at a fucking whatever those, at the church or whatever, when they ask you to stand up and publicly proclaim that you're a Christian and now you believe every word in the book that you haven't fucking read yet.
Well,
that's social pressure to tell people that you got to believe something without even knowing what it is.
I'm not saying that some Christians don't have a full understanding. They don't.
Is that an incorrect way to ask people to become saved?
I personally think the reason why the church is suffering is because most Christians can't defend their faith. Most can't.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
On here, and they can't defend their faith.
Yeah.
I'm bragging. God gave me this. The only reason why I can is because he gave it to me. Because I asked him to. Because when I came to faith, I had been through school. I know evolution. They taught it to me. Didn't really care at the time. I just wanted to drink and party. But I knew what it was. And it was barrier for me. I was a Thomas. I had to stick my finger inside of Jesus' side, so to speak. I had to look and I had to see.
Okay.
I had to find out whether this stuff, any of it made sense.
Then what did you see? Tell me your personal experience.
And I started looking. The reason why I know this stuff is because I started looking. I started looking at first of all, does God even exist? And that's beyond doubt. It's silly to think he doesn't, but some people can say, well, we haven't found this or that, and maybe instructions can come from a different source. Okay, maybe rocks think too. But those type of things made me believe that God exists. Now, that's only the first step. You're right. It could be any God. So I started looking, okay, which one makes the most sense? Which one says the things that are true, that you would expect?
And it just happened to comport with where you were born and the most popular religion in your country, and that was all a coincidence.
Was not born into a Christian family. There's 130 million Chinese Christians right now that their entire surroundings was atheistic. Same with the Soviet Union. So don't tell me that. That doesn't make sense.
It's like, what?
That you're a Christian because you grew up in the United States, that's hogwash.
And so you think you would have been a Christian if you were raised in Afghanistan?
If God wanted you to be, yeah. He can have his voice forever.
That's just...
There's Christians in Afghanistan. There's Christians in Iran.
I know that there's some there. I'm just saying, if you were raised by a Muslim family...
If the argument you're making is true, then you wouldn't be that. But it doesn't have anything to do with that.
I mean, we've made efforts to try to spread it everywhere. That doesn't mean that it was magic, that they just appeared, that religion just all of a sudden popped up all over the world. No, we went and made that happen by crossing the seas and trying to spread the love of Jesus.
Sure. Well, that's I'm not saying that isn't true, but they accepted it.
But it is still the culturally Christianity of your,
because if
in
they
America.
Came over to anybody that has a half a brain and said that Santa Claus is God, I said, okay, well, you need to prove that. How does he get around on his sleigh to every house in the world to drop off the presents?
Well, how do you prove that Jesus was God or had anything to do with God?
Because he said he was.
Because he said he was. So Muhammad said that Allah's God. Okay, so now we're back to square one.
Demonstrate that he's God. He has control over time, space, matter, and energy.
We don't have any evidence of that.
Sure we do.
Like what?
The disciples giving out their testimony and willing to die for it.
That's not evidence, man.
People
That's just people being
delusion.
people. People being mistaken about something.
500 different people after he was crucified. And I'll tell you this, Ned, Brent. Okay, let me give you.
That was one person claimed that 500 people saw him.
No,
That's it. There's not 500 accounts. No, there's not. That's just not true.
The Jews and the Romans were the one who crucified Jesus.
Yeah, and
he told everybody that would listen to him that he would physically rise from the dead, not spiritually, because you can't prove that. He said he would physically rise from the dead. That's the reason why the Jews put guards at his tomb. Who puts guards at a tomb? The reason why they did it is because he said he was going to rise from the dead. They said, okay, well, as long as we make it so he doesn't rise from the dead, and all these crazy people, there's lots of other ones that had messianic ideas. I agree with you, but he proved it. They put guards at his tomb. All the Jews had to do is one thing, and me and you wouldn't be sitting here talking. All they had to do was produce the body. They couldn't do it. And they say so.
Because they had a vested interest in it.
They had a vested interest.
How do you know? The most reasonable is that he came back to life? I thought we were talking about the most reasonable cause for the universe. Now you're saying
when he was alive.
Of all the things that could have possibly happened to the body, the only possible explanation is that he actually came back to life.
If they would have produced the body, me and you wouldn't be standing here talking.
If they had reproduced the body?
Christianity wouldn't be on its feet if they would have produced the body. Because Jesus said he would physically rise from the dead.
I'm pretty sure y'all find a way around that. Look what you're doing right now.
Disciples said, okay, he was lying.
This is why, it's like you guys do these weird dances whenever it's like, it's like you're just gonna start making stuff up, and then that's what it seems like. It's just you're making stuff up. It's like, oh well, here's why this mistake in the Bible isn't a mistake, because
just like the guys that say Jesus was a myth, even Wikipedia says that's a fringe opinion. Jesus of Nazareth existed as a person. There's too much evidence to say otherwise.
There's not a lot of sources, though. The sources are actually all just stories.
Plato, Aristotle, and Alexander the Great existed, if
Right.
you believe they existed, you're going by a lot less proof than Jesus of Nazareth. Because anything written about any of those guys is 1,000 years after the fact at least, some of them 1,500. We've got documentation of Jesus' history written in the book. We've got documentation of only 25 to 30 years after the Gospel of John was written. We have a fragment of it. It's there. And we have, if you go to 200 years.
Yeah, and there were things left out of it, and there was other parts added that they admitted they added.
Saying the same thing.
The whole stoning her thing was added after the fact.
All saying the same thing. The historical documentation for Jesus of Nazareth is beyond any person in antiquity.
No, it's not.
Bar none.
No, it's not. Because other people wrote things down and signed their name to them.
Documentation for him is better than anybody in antiquity. Anyone.
No, it's not. That's just not true. I'm sorry, but it's not.
The next best one is the...
that was one thing I really was like thinking about a lot, and I researched it, and I was like, wow, we don't have anything.
And it only has 600 copies within 500 years. Only has 600. In 500 years, we have 24,000 copies of what Jesus did, and they all agree.
But that doesn't mean that it's true, man. Like, that doesn't make it true.
You can think rocks have a mind, but...
You think rocks have a mind when God speaks through them. I don't. I'm in reality. It's like, your book's the ones that says that rocks talk, or they will. Come on. And donkeys and anything else, apparently. Because just all bets are off for reality when it comes to that book. And you're saying that the one part that has one guy that was mentioned in history, sort of, I think it was more of an amalgamation of a bunch of Christs at the time, because that was such a popular cult thing at the time, was the chosen one. And nobody, I don't even think that they actually even say Jesus besides like Josephus. They all just said the Christ. And there was like a million of them. We don't know which one, there was so many conflicting stories. I mean, even the books in the Bible don't even line up right. The numbers are all different. The colors are different over the road. There's so many just problems that they're historically inaccurate. King Herod did not kill thousands of children. That's not true. It's not in history anywhere. The census doesn't make sense. Why would you ask people to go back to their parents' house, count them, and then let them all go back somewhere and be like, look, we got an accurate number. We got a real accurate number since we asked everybody to move around. What the hell? That doesn't make any sense.
You can look it up. There was a census.
Yeah, and it happened 10 years after King Herod had already died. Look up the actual timeline, man. That's what I'm saying. There's problems with the book that you're claiming is so damn true. Yeah, there is. I just demonstrated that there is. Look it up, like you just said. Look it up.
I have looked it up.
You looked up the census happened 10 years after King Herod had died. You know that fact.
There may have been one that happened then, but there was one that happened at the time, too.
Nope, that was the one. That was the one that was referred to.
In intervals.
And what about the thousands of children that never died? That never happened, that King Herod was trying to find Jesus. It was an origin story.
And how do you know that they didn't?
Because it wasn't recorded anywhere in history, and I'm pretty sure if thousands of kids were killed, that would have made it into history.
Something like that.
Why would they have recorded that? Are you serious?
Why would they record it?
Because there would be a bunch of pissed off mothers. Come on,
Why would they record it?
What do you mean? That doesn't make any sense. Why would they record thousands of kids being killed?
They didn't have TV in those days. There wasn't CNN reporting that.
But they had historians that were there in that time that never recorded this.
It wasn't anything that the Romans had interest in. Why would they report it?
There was other people that were...
That somebody like Tacitus...
There was other historians that weren't Roman at the time. That were actually Jewish and would have been very upset that they were trying so hard to kill the king of the Jews that they killed thousands of kids and none of that made it into history. Come on, man.
There's plenty.
Seriously.
We just don't want to look at it.
No, I did look at it. I do want to look at it. I do want to know. And I've looked at it. And that's just not the case. The case is, it didn't happen.
2-hour realm and I got other things to do.
Oh, shit, I'm sorry. I didn't realize we weren't for that long. Okay, my bad.
I'm getting into that realm. But anyway,
wow.
If you want to do this again, and I want to, because I think you're a good guy.
Yeah, you too, man.
I think you're misled, but I think you're a good guy.
You too.
Again, on the Bible, I'll be happy to do it.
All right. Yeah, let's do that. Let's do that.
I'll be happy to come on with you again, and we'll go through it.
Okay. Sounds great, man.
It was supposed to be about God's existence, and it came.
I know. I'm sorry. We stuck so long at the Kalam, and I really wanted to hear some of your apologetics. So, you know, because I heard you rattling them off about Jesus before, you know, Robert introduced something else that you had to try to rattle off.
I wasn't really prepared to go into the Bible because that's not where we were talking about going. And I'll get the stuff. If you want to do it again, I'll get the stuff, and we can do that.
Okay, yeah, and I'll gather all the historic information, and we'll compare notes.
Okay,
cool?
That sounds good. I like that.
All right, thank you so much, man. I'm sorry it went so long. I didn't realize.
No, Brent, I want to thank you for letting me come on.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The broadcast is to the atheist community, and I appreciate you letting me come on, and I appreciate you listening.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
I didn't override too much.
It got a little crazy. It's all right though.
I did, but I'm Mr. Robert Stanley, so I guess I have to.
Right. I know you're used to him, so that's all.
Really, honestly, Brent, I really appreciate you coming on. Let me come on, should I say? The
Yeah,
reason why I'm on is because you're made in the image of God, and God cares about you. He has an agape love for you, and He wants you to change your mind because He wants you to spend eternity with Him in a place that's so beautiful Paul couldn't describe it. That's what He wants. And he doesn't require anything of you other than just believe.
Right.
And that's why I come on places like this to show that God is reasonable to consider God exists, and the one that's described in the Bible I think is the most reasonable one. But I appreciate you letting me come on and say that.
Yeah, no problem. All right, man. You take it easy.
Say hi to your wife for me. I'm sorry, your girlfriend.
Yeah, you bet. Will do.
See you
All
later.
right, man. Take it easy.
Bye.
Jeez. He just kept talking. He kept talking. Like I was just like, okay, I'll just wait. I'll wait for him to stop. And then I'm like, I forget what I said, what I was gonna say. Anyway, I'm gonna have to get better at interrupting. That's what it is. Just start. Stop. No, stop. Like Matt Dillahunty, you know. Not stop. You're done. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for watching. I was not as prepared as I should have been. But all right, thanks a lot though. Seriously, this was fun. Oh, that's the wrong computer.